What is up? My name is Dallin Anderson, and today we are going to be talking about how to find your true purpose in life the best way. So let's get straight into it. We're going to be talking about 3 things that you guys can do to figure out what your purpose is and really determine for yourself if this choice is the right one, if that choice is the right one, and then therefore know how to move forward in your life. So the very first thing that we are going to talk about today, the very first principle, is to examine yourselves. Examine yourselves. Okay? Now, what I'm talking about here with examining yourself is taking note. It's being aware of what your inclinations, your talents, your natural talents, inclinations, things, gifts, things that you were given, things that have always inspired you. Like look back to your childhood and think about what really made you excited, like things that really made you tick, that really got you fired up. Things that you really fell in love with. You know, for me, that's my guitar, right? When I was pretty young, I don't know exactly what age, I'd have to ask my mom, I started playing guitar. And I really just every day would play guitar. I'd play it for quite a bit of time. I really fell in love with my guitar to the point where this was bringing life into me. It was bringing excitement and joy, and it was really bringing a lot of life into me. So examining yourself is saying, okay, well, what am I good at, right? What are my natural inclinations? What are things that I have been gifted with? What are things that I enjoy studying? What are my hobbies, interests? That's examining yourself. But also examining yourself could be like, okay, maybe you want to play sports. Maybe you want to be a sports player like basketball, and you're really short, right? Well, maybe an NBA player isn't your future. It could be, right? Like, it's not impossible, but examining yourself is also understanding kind of who you are as a person. Because for me personally, right, like I'm tall, I have long arms, and so basketball is something I really enjoy doing. But I also have a friend that's better than me at basketball, and he's shorter. So don't take this to be an automatic end-all be-all, but examining yourself is definitely being aware of, okay, what are my natural inclinations, like internally? Like, is it guitar? Or is it reading? Is it making YouTube videos? Is it socializing with people? Is it writing books? You know, what are your natural inclinations internally? But also, what is your body capable of doing? So that's also part of examining yourself and being true to yourself as a person. Because let's be honest, you know, if you have a physical thing that's holding you back in some way, maybe you might need to change for something else. Or maybe you can be the person inside of that community that really shows people that anything is possible. But either way, you have to examine yourself and see what your interests are and your inclinations. So let's talk about how to examine yourself. So examining yourself is really 3 parts. There's 3 parts to examining yourself. The first part is, we're going to switch here to blue because apparently my black one is running out of ink. So the first part of examining yourself is to have a clear mind. Okay, now normally, I guess this probably wouldn't be the first thing people think of a lot of times, But in order to accurately examine yourself, you need to have a clear mind. So take time to organize your thinking, take time to meditate, pray, really clean the inside of your mind and set yourself up for success. Because if you don't have a clear mind, it's going to be hard to examine yourself. So having a clear mind, like I said, consists of exercise, meditation, good sleep, good food, clean thoughts. And obviously that doesn't happen overnight, so it's kind of a catch-22. Well, people say, well, I need to know what to do with my life, but then you kind of have to be in a good place to accurately see. So really the first thing you should probably do with your life is start changing like your daily habits. Before you go trying to save the world, see if you can, get your life together. See if you can meditate. See if you can eat good food. See if you can pray. See if you can start doing things for yourself every day that take you closer to that place you want to be, right? Because really what you're looking for when you're looking for a life purpose is you're looking for fulfillment, for joy, a sense of importance, like you're needed, like you're helpful to people, society, your family. So if you're looking for all of those things, having a clear mind, meditation, exercise, eating healthy, those things are going to bring joy into your life already. There's this old saying where people say, okay, the CEO does not have his position or he doesn't have his attitude because of his position. So a lot of times people see a CEO and they say, oh, this guy owns a business. He's so happy. It must be because he is a CEO that he's so happy. But the truth of the matter is that he's actually a CEO because he's happy. So it's the other way around. So if you want to examine yourself correctly, then you want to be in a good place, right? The idea is that the CEO did not become a CEO because of a bad attitude. He got up there because he had a good mindset. And he's not happy because of his position. He has his position because he's happy. That's the difference. A lot of people want a purpose. A lot of people want to know where to go with their lives. A lot of people want joy. They want fulfillment. But then they think that getting that thing is going to bring them joy. No, in order to get that thing, you have to become joyful before you receive it. So it's not a catch-22. It's just you have to understand the way reality works. It feels like a catch-22, partially because you feel like there's a gap between where you want to be and where you are, because there is, right? But you're feeling that gap is really big. So you got to stop worrying about that and start realizing that any dream that you have for yourself is probably achievable. That's why God put it in your heart. So start believing that it's possible and start making little steps every day, and you'll actually become joyful. And as you become joyful, as you start to have a clear mind, what's going to happen is you're going to start to increase your success, right? So again, the CEO doesn't have a good attitude because he's a CEO. He's a CEO because he has a good attitude. So you want to become a person that has a clear mind, and then you can accurately choose what to do with your life. But until you do that thing, you're really just getting in your own way. It's too hard to see. And you don't have to be perfect, right? But if you start to clear your mind, give yourself 20, 30 days to get a clear mind. before you really make the decision. Otherwise, you might be acting out of fog, right? You might be partly blinded by your state of mind. So part of examining yourself is having a clear mind so you can accurately see. Okay, the next thing is, like I said, take inventory. Okay? And taking inventory looks like, okay, well, for me, I know how to play the guitar. I love guitar. I fell in love with it when I was really young. So guitar is definitely one of my talents, one of my gifts from God. It's something that I really enjoy doing. So examining myself, taking inventory, includes realizing that I love guitar. That could be an element in my life's purpose because it's super important to me. You know, as a kid, I remember going into flow states where I would just play guitar for hours, or I don't know exactly how long, a really long time. And because of that, I know for a fact that it's something that resonates with me on a spiritual level. So guitar is part of taking inventory. But I also like self-development. I like exercise. I like things, all sorts of different things, right? Reading books. I like to go on hikes. I like to go mountain biking. I like to hang out with friends. I like to, let's see here. Maybe I need to examine myself better before I make this video. Trying to think of a bunch of things off the top of my head here. Yeah, I like guitar. I like music. I like socializing, drum circles. You know, these are all different things that I enjoy doing. So part of examining yourself is taking inventory after you have a clear mind of what you want to do with your life. Take inventory of those things that you're good at, because that's probably what you're supposed to be doing. There's probably a strong connection there. And maybe you haven't realized it yet, right? Maybe guitar is just a hobby for you. Maybe flying drones is just a hobby for you. But you can start to change your mindset and realize, okay, I have such a big love for flying drones. It might not just be a hobby. This could be something, maybe I'm supposed to fly drones for companies and take video footage for them or do surveying or whatever, right? That could be something more than just an interest. It could be your life's purpose. So understanding, taking inventory of those things that you're interested in, of those things that you're good at, that you already have a little bit of a foundation, is really going to help you examine yourself and then determine what you're supposed to be doing with your life. So take inventory. That's number 3 under examine yourself, subcategory, take inventory. Okay. And by the way, you guys, this is a lifelong process. I have new hobbies, new things I'm into that I used to not be into, right? Like mushroom foraging. I started doing that a little bit at like 15 and 17, but I didn't really get into it until the last, couple years where I really got into it. And so, yeah, it's a new hobby for me. So over time, you might have new ones. But your life purpose, you don't want to change all the time because you want to build momentum. So it's something that you want to extrapolate over time, like use as much time as you can to build momentum towards your mission, your purpose in life. So if you always have a new goal, a new destination, it's really hard to build that momentum because every single few minutes you're changing your goal. You know, imagine like a boat at sea. If one day you decide to go to China and the next day you decide to go to the East Coast, you're going to not make any progress, especially if you decide to go back to China halfway on your way to the East Coast, right? You're just going to stay in the same spot. So you gotta have a destination, and you don't want to change it a lot. But you will get new inclinations, new hobbies, new things that you can examine and see, okay, well, maybe this thing I could integrate into my life purpose somehow. You know, who knows? So, yeah, take inventory and think back on the past. We talked about this a little bit. Okay, think back on the past. But when you were a kid, what drove you? Like what, and I'm not just talking video games. It could be that, you know, people make money, people earn a living and love it playing video games full time. This is 2024. The sky really is the limit. Like you can do a lot today in today's world. So yeah, but I'm talking more like for me when I was a kid, I played a lot of video games, but I don't really now because it just doesn't have the same kick that it used to. I don't know why. Still play some Mario Kart sometimes. I'll still play Super Smash with my bros, but it just doesn't have that same kick. But I'm talking about like when you were a kid, what really drove you, you know? For me, it was music, like guitar. That really drove me. But I also liked going and looking for fossils. You know, that's partially why I love hiking so much now. Because I used to go hang out with my dad and go hunting or go look for fossils with him because he used to work for the dinosaur museum. So, you know, that was something that interested me. I have a friend that is a paleontologist because he, when he was really young, realized that he was just completely and totally obsessed with dinosaurs. And over time, like an abnormal, you know, most kids, they like dinosaurs. He was really into them. And so he decided to become a paleontologist. And he's studying right now. He loves it. He's a really cool person. But he looked back to his past and thought, here's something that for some reason he's just always loved. And he didn't even know why. He just couldn't even barely make sense of it. But he loved it. So that's the kind of thing that if you look back and ask yourself, I'm sure you've got those things in your life. Look back and ask yourself, okay, what do I love? Like I said, for me, it was guitar. Some people, it's reading books. I didn't fall in love with reading books until later. Now I love reading, but that took time for me. Also, if you look back to your past and you can't really think of anything, look harder. There's got to be a memory, a moment somehow, some way. If you're not getting it right now, let go of trying to search and see if something arises within you later, like a memory comes to the surface. See if something is brought to your remembrance, and then use that thing to help you determine, you know, okay, this thing obviously drove me when I was a kid. So maybe on a spiritual level, I really resonate with that thing. So yeah, part of examining yourself is a 3-step process. Have a clear mind. You can't examine yourself without a clear mind. You're going to have inaccurate assessments of different things. It's going to be skewed and distorted by your state of mind, by your diet, by your everything. So have a clear mind. That's going to help you make better decisions. So you gotta do your best to eliminate things that affect your clarity and build things that build up your clarity, like meditation, you know, whatever it is that builds your clarity. Build up those things and cut off those things that cause fog. So have a clear mind. And the number 2 under the subcategory here is to take inventory, right? What are your talents? What are you into right now? What have you been into previously? What are you naturally good at? What is your body type? Things like that. See what your inclination is, like kind of what you're built for. Because if you're on this earth, you've probably got something that you really fit well for. Something that your personality, your spirit, your everything about you just fits right into place, perfectly into that thing. That's what this whole video is all about, is finding that thing. I'm talking about an insane level of accuracy here. I'm not talking about, let's make a video about how to find your purpose and then we'll just pick one that we think might be good and roll with it. No, I'm talking about like hitting the bullseye right on the center. Exactly what you're supposed to be doing in this life. Right on. And so in order to do that, you need to know, okay, what are you good at? What are you fit for? And it's not that hard to figure out. And you can probably think back, like I said, and something is going to resonate. Something is going to click. It's going to feel right. It's going to feel good to you. You're going to feel good about it in your mind, in your spirit. So yeah, take inventory and think back. This is all part of the process of examining yourself, and examining yourself is really that's the way that you're going to be able to take everything that you've assessed, take inventory of all those different things, and then you're going to be able to build a plan and a vision based on those things, or at least a few different ideas, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So again, you guys, the very first thing, examine yourselves. Under that, there's 3 subcategories. Have a clear mind, take inventory, and think back. If you can do those 3 things, you're going to probably get a pretty good idea of what you're supposed to be doing with your time. Okay, let's talk about number 2. Number 2 is think for ideas. Think for ideas. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, isn't examining myself thinking for ideas? No. Examining yourself is taking inventory of what you're good at, what you potentially are fit for, based on experiences, memories. Thinking for ideas is saying, okay, well, based on those different things that I have, these talents, what can I do? If you play guitar, you could be a rhythm guitar player that really only records in the studio, just like as a job kind of, because that exists. There's people that just play rhythm guitar. They're just really good at playing the chords. And so they hire them to just play in studios to help record music. They don't have to be famous. They make plenty of money. They do what they love, right? So that's an option. That's an idea around guitar. Just because you know how to play guitar doesn't mean you have to be in front of a million people singing, or it doesn't mean that you don't even have to be the type of person that does live concerts. You could just do YouTube music, right? If you just wanted to do online. So you've got a lot of different ideas, a lot of different places, directions you could take this skill of playing your guitar. And, depending on who you are as a person, those different solutions, different ideas are going to resonate and work with you better or worse, depending on, who you are. And also you can make something work. But like I said, the purpose of this is finding your true purpose, which even when you do find your true purpose, there's days where you're going to have to make it happen. no matter what you do, whatever you choose. But if it's your true purpose, it's going to resonate. So you'll hopefully get into flow states. It'll feel right to you. You might have some fears and doubts along the way, but ultimately it's really going to click. That's how you're going to know in a lot of ways. But yeah, think for ideas. So make a list of ideas. So thinking for ideas, the first subcategory is to make a list of ideas. So if you have a list of inclinations and talents, think of different ways that those could become your career or your purpose. So, let's stop using the guitar example. Let's say mountain biking. Maybe you like mountain biking. I like mountain biking. I'm not very good at it like my dad is, but I like to go with him. So for me, it's probably not my life purpose, but I enjoy exercise, I enjoy doing it. But I know a guy that has a bike shop. He sold it, but he owned a bike shop and he loved mountain biking. So what he did was he created a bike shop, and that was his purpose. He was able to mountain bike and he was able to sell bikes, and those two things working together was a great fit for him and his life purpose. It resonated with him. It wasn't like he was just doing it for the money. It wasn't like he was just doing it for the social proof, just because your friends want you to. It's like he was doing it because it really is what resonated with him, And that is part of making a list. Do I want to be a mountain bike shop owner? Do I want to be a professional mountain biker? Well, a professional mountain biker has a lot more physical risk. They might die. They might get in a wreck or something on a crazy track. So you just have to weigh these options for yourself. Do you want to put yourself at that much risk? Maybe you do. Maybe you're kind of a daredevil. Maybe you like to do crazy trails. But for me, I don't want to do that personally. So making a list of different ideas isn't just, okay, here's my talents. It's what am I going to do with my talent to make it profitable? Not only profitable, but to make it my purpose, where it resonates with my heart. Because you don't want to get caught up doing something just for the money. That's the last thing you want to do. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do things like if you need to make some money for a while and you have to work a job you don't like for a while to transition into something better. That doesn't mean that's not something you should consider, but it does mean that if it's your life purpose, you don't want to be doing it for the rest of your life just for the money. Kind of defeats the purpose of figuring out what your purpose is. Because to figure out what your purpose is to bring life into it, so you don't have to force yourself. So it comes a little more naturally because you're flowing with it. You're working with your natural inclinations and gifts. So make a list of different ideas, right? It could be maybe you want to build a business. And maybe that business is a YouTube channel or whatever. Or maybe you want to build a way to help, provide silverware to people in developing countries where they don't have access to utensils or cups or water. Maybe that's your thing. But you want to make a list of your different things. And then once you have that list, the next thing you want to do is determine top 3. Determine top 3. So once you have a list of different things you think you might be good at, well, figure out what the top 3 are. What are those 3 things that you can do that not only works well with your natural talents, but also really helps humanity in a big way, where you feel like you resonate with it, where you feel like, it's spiritually feels good to you. What are those things? Just determine your top 3. But don't do this while you're making your list. While you're making your list, don't try to judge how good your ideas are. Just make a list of all the ideas that you have, even if one of them kind of sounds silly. And that list could be 10, 20 things, ideas you have, But you just don't try to judge your list as you're making it. Just make a big list of different things, and then afterwards, maybe even after dinner or whatever, come back and say, okay, what are my top 3? Because I can't do 20 things, and I probably can't even do 3 very good, at least until I get really good at doing 1. And then maybe I can add on, because I'm so good at doing that 1 that it's kind of running itself, But until that point, you really want to have one central focus. And so, determine your top 3. Once you have your top 3 determined, then you want to make a clear map for top 3. So making a clear map for top 3 means, okay, well, I have 3 different ideas. What would it look like if I actually did it? What would it look like? If I'm going to be a mountain bike shop salesperson where I sell mountain bikes, what do I need to do to make that happen? Like, what would it look like? Start to map that out. You could write like a 1-page document of what your mission statement would be, what your values would be, what the first step would be, the smallest product you could have. For a mountain bike store, it might look like, what's the smallest building I can buy, or the place I can find with the lowest rent, where I can start putting some mountain bikes out and start selling them. You don't have to have 1,000 mountain bikes at the start to start selling mountain bikes, but you definitely have to have an idea of what it would look like to get started, realistically. So out of those top 3, determine, okay, that's a really good idea. It's one of my top 3. What would it look like if I executed it? You don't have to have that perfect, but just make a list of values, make a mission statement, a goal, like your North Star. If your North Star is providing silverware, biodegradable silverware to people in developing countries, then maybe, you figure out what it would look like. How do I start producing biodegradable silverware or getting it for really cheap from a distributor so I can start providing it to these people? What's the cost of the cheapest plane ticket? Can I get a cheap plane ticket out to Africa and bring a bunch of biodegradable plates and plastic silverware with me and make a YouTube video about it? Right? That's a pretty low cost way to get started doing that. But it's also got a good mission, a good values, good purpose. So determine your top 3 and then make 3 separate documents. They could be a page long, they could be 2 pages long, whatever. However long you want. Don't go too crazy with it or whatever. Try to keep it clear, simple, and concise, easy to understand for you and anybody else. But make a clear map of those top 3 things. And then that way you're going to be able to better determine what one not only makes sense for you, but also makes sense to get started doing. Like you can figure out a way to get started doing it. And even the craziest goals, even if you have like a really, really high goal that seems really far and hard to reach, there's usually always a small thing that you can do to test that goal, to see if it works, to see if it's actually something people want before you try to scale it all the way up to where you want to take it. So even if you have a really big goal, there's probably a way to make a realistic entry into that dream, but you got to figure it out. So make a clear map for your top 3. Okay, all right. Pick what resonates. Pick what resonates. Okay, so what resonates with you? This is kind of like examining yourself, but until you know what your top 3 are, examining yourself is just taking inventory of skills, gifts, you know? But once you know what your top 3 are, then my camera battery died again, but yeah, once you figure out what your top 3 are, then you can pick what resonates with you. You can feel it out. You know, there's going to be probably one of them will draw you to it. You'll feel like magnetized towards it. That's the one you really need to go for. That's the one that has the most gold at the end of the rainbow, basically. You know, that's the one that's really going to click. It's going to feel right to you. You're going to be energized as you're doing it. You're going to feel life coming into you while you do it. So pick what resonates with you and then focus on one. Okay, like I said earlier, if you're always changing your goal, if you don't know whether you're going to China or the East Coast and you're changing every 20 miles, you're not going to make any progress. So you got to pick one of them and go with it and keep going with it. And yeah, you're probably going to have resistance along the way, but you'll just kind of know. If it's right for you, you'll just kind of know. And you can trust that. So focus on one of them. So pick what resonates and focus on one. And then last but not least is to save the others. Okay, maybe some of your other ideas that you had were better than you thought they were. And maybe down the road, after you focused on one of them for long enough, you got really good at it and you have more opportunity, more freedom, more self-confidence, then maybe you can go after some of those other ones that you have. And there's no reason or nothing to stop you from doing it. So save your other ideas. They could be good later. You might need them, you know? And also, if you're focusing on one goal and you thought that it resonated with you, you thought it was right for you, but you're not happy, and it's not just because you're being lazy or you're not trying, but like you're really putting your all in and you're really, you know, doing your best to eat healthy and be in a mindset that's conducive to happiness, and you're still not happy, it could be your work. So you might want to go back and look at those other ideas that you had and say, okay, what do I really need to do with my life? Because maybe one of those other ideas that you've forgotten and kind of put aside is actually your life's purpose. But you were just too scared. You cared too much about what other people thought of you. You know, whatever reason, you laid it aside consciously or unconsciously, and you had to come back to it later, but then you still fulfill that dream because it's your purpose. So save the other ones. So yeah, think for ideas, you guys. Make a list of a bunch of ideas. Don't try to judge the ideas while you're making the list. Just brainstorm. Could be 5, 20, 30, 100 ideas. Make a list. And then determine the top 3. Figure out what the 3, after examining yourself and stuff, figure out what 3 you think are the best. And then once you figured out those 3, then you want to have a clear map for top 3. What would it look like to get started? What would it look like to get started selling cars? If that's one of your top 3, you might want to look at what it takes to get started with a dealership or whatever. Okay. Determine your top 3 and make a clear map for your top 3. Pick what resonates. You're going to feel alive. It's going to bring life into you. And you won't be doing it for other people. Well, you might be doing it for other people. You might be serving other people, but you're not doing it only for other people, right? It's going to be something that you resonate with on a personal level. And you're not going to be doing it because of the wrong reasons. You're not going to be doing it for money. You're not going to be doing it for fame. You're not going to be doing it for any of those reasons. And if those things happen, if you get money, if you get prominence or influence or whatever, cool, but that's not your driving, motivating factor. So, yeah, pick what resonates with you. It's going to resonate you with for the right reasons. You're going to feel good and alive doing it. Focus on one. If you're spread out between a bunch of different directions, even if you could equally distribute your energy between 3 different things, which is really impossible, because when you come from one thing into a different thing, you're still in the mindset of being in that other thing. And so it's not really easy to be able to perfectly distribute all of who you are into 3 different things. But even if you could, you're only going to make, let's say we all only have the same amount of time in a day. So if you distribute it between 3 things, you're only making this much progress on 3 different things. That little line, right? But if your life purpose is one thing, then you're making that much progress every day. One big, thick line. So, you want to be able to focus and channel yourself into that one thing that's really going to change your life and provide momentum. Because that's what you need. You need momentum in your purpose. That's why you don't want to change, partially why. So you can build momentum. Okay. And save the other ones. Save everything that you possibly have that is an idea. You might need it later. Who knows? Maybe you accidentally, without even realizing it, wrote down $1 million idea that's going to help a bunch of people, that's going to either, reduce suffering or just make a really good tasting ice cream cone, whatever, right? Maybe you have a genius idea on that list and you just haven't recognized it yet. So, number 2 is think for ideas. Number 1 was examine yourself. So once you've examined yourself, then you want to think about ideas of how to best use that self that you've examined towards a purpose, a central purpose in your life. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Okay, now last but not least is pay attention. Number 3. Pay attention. Let's see. So pay attention, you guys. Like I said, what resonates with you? What inspires you? Once you have an idea of what you want to do, you've got a few ideas, pay attention to what is really inspiring you. Because that's probably the thing that is your life purpose. It's bringing life into you for a reason. There's a reason for it. So pay attention to that. And under pay attention, we have observe feelings. So this could be, okay, well, I do this thing, and every time I do it, I feel like I don't have as much focus, or every time I do it, I feel like I've wasted my time, or every time I do it, I feel like I'm not being true to myself. That's probably a sign through observation of feelings that thing is not right for you. Because if it was right for you, you'd probably feel good when you did it. You wouldn't feel like a massive brick wall of resistance. And that's not to say there won't be days where you don't have to push through a little bit of resistance, even in your life purpose, but you'll know. You'll be like, this isn't right for me. And you'll feel it inside of you. So observe those feelings, because those feelings, your intuition is more powerful than you probably give it credit for. Your intuition can probably weed out and determine things that aren't right for you, especially if you're in tune with it. So pay attention to those feelings. Pay attention. Okay, test in action. So if it's your life purpose, it's probably going to come together. Like, okay, what's a good example of this? So all right, so if you start building a Lego set wrong from the start, it's hard to get all the pieces. Like if you start building a Lego set incorrectly, it's going to become more and more hard to try to get it to look like the image that you're seeing on the box. So you want to start correctly from the very beginning. You want to start correctly by following those instructions right from the start. Because if you follow those instructions right from the start, the closer you get to the end, the easier it will be to put that Lego set together. So that's kind of also true for our life purpose. If we start going after our life purpose and it really doesn't come together, like it feels, there's obviously going to be trials, there's going to be things that slow you down, unexpected things that slow you down. But if it seems like it's super, super, super hard to get going, like ridiculously forced, to where you're just forcing this thing and it's really not coming together, you might be building that Lego set incorrectly from the start. And that's why as you keep going, it's harder and harder. Where if you build that Lego set correctly from the start, as you keep going, there's less pieces. The ones that are already put on are in the right place, so it's easier to see where to put those pieces. Just like how when you finish a puzzle, as you get closer to the end, there's less puzzle pieces, so it's easier to find the spots that they go into, because there isn't so many empty spots. So it's also true for your life purpose. If you test it, and for some reason, it doesn't feel like as you go on, things improve. Like it doesn't feel like it's right for you. Like it doesn't come together in a sort of divinely ordered way, then it's probably not right for you. Now, if it is your life purpose, there's also going to be a lot of things trying to stop you from doing it. There's going to be doubts, there's going to be different things like that. But at the same time, it's going to feel like a miracle always happens and somehow it always comes together and works out. So test it in action. See, okay, is this thing kind of coming together? Does it feel like it's divinely ordered? Or does it feel like I'm trying to force this thing just because I think it's the right thing for me and it's really not coming together? So ask yourself that, and the only way to ask yourself that is to test in action and see how you actually feel. Okay, and then flow states. Flow states is awesome. So if you're doing something and it's easy for you to get into flow, it's easy for you to feel confident, it's easy for you to feel focused, it's easy for you to feel like it's bringing life into you. Like you're present to the moment, like you're feeling vibrancy, youthfulness, rejuvenation, clarity, joy. Those feelings come from flow states. That flow is probably a sign you're on the right path. It's probably a sign that you're doing something that's in harmony with your purpose. That's why you're getting into these flow states. That's why it's so easy. That's why you don't even have to barely try, is because it's right for you. It's in harmony. You're in harmony with it, and it's in harmony with you. So it creates that flow state. I cannot stress this enough. This is probably one of the most telltale signs of your life purpose, is your ability to get into these flow states while you're doing it. If this comes easily while you're doing something, strong sign that thing is important to you. It's important to your purpose and something you should follow. So yeah, flow states, highly underrated. Last but not least, spiritual confirmation. Okay. Also extremely important. Very, very important. That spiritual confirmation. This is all, everything we've kind of talked about today, at the end of the day, is just you trying to determine whether it's spiritually fit for you. Like if you're in harmony with it, like I described here with flow states, if it's right for you, it's going to feel like spiritually, you're going to feel spiritual confirmation. You're going to have that spiritual resonance where that thing really feels correct, feels good, feels like where you're supposed to be. That spiritual confirmation can come, through prayer, direct communication, where you get just a sure answer that that's right for you, or it could just be little things. Sometimes people get more of a gradual answer where they just say, you know what, this really does feel right. The more that I do this thing, the more it feels right, the more I feel spiritually in alignment with it. So they follow through. And the more they follow through, the more they feel it. And so that's their spiritual confirmation. But if it's your life purpose, you probably want to have that spiritual confirmation that it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time trying to make it happen when it's not going to happen all too easily. And also, if it does happen, you're probably in worse of a spot than if it didn't. So if you're not getting that spiritual confirmation for something, but you just try to force to make it happen, and then it works, might be bad, might be actually really bad for you, like destroy your life, right? So yeah, you want to have that spiritual confirmation, because otherwise, if you don't have that spiritual confirmation and you try to force something to happen, you're probably going against that harmonious state that you want to be in. You want to be in harmony with yourself, with your purpose, with all of those things. So if you're not getting that spiritual confirmation, probably don't want to try to force it, okay? It's like what George MacDonald said, Christian writer, love his works. If you know C.S. Lewis, then you also might know about George MacDonald. He said that it's better to fail with God than to succeed without him. I'm paraphrasing, but what he's saying is, if it's not spiritually correct for you, it's worse that you succeed doing that thing than if you were to fail without it, right? Because if you succeed, then you're probably going to be really spiritually sick. So you don't want to succeed without God. It's better to fail with him than to succeed without him in a particular thing. But if you pick the correct thing, then you will succeed with God. So you'll get both of them. You'll get them both. right? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all these things shall be added unto you. But if you don't seek that first, if you don't seek that spiritual confirmation first, if you get all those things, it's like what Jesus said, what does it profit a man that he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? So that spiritual confirmation is one of the most important things when it comes to your life purpose. You really want to feel that spiritual confirmation. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. Okay, let's go ahead and run over all three of them. Not the subcategories, really. I'll read them to you, but we'll just write them down. And I know you guys probably can't perfectly see what I'm writing on this whiteboard because I have this reflective light, but you can hear what I'm saying. So the whiteboard is kind of just, it's just here for looks partially. So yeah. Okay, the very first thing, you guys, the very first one on the list again, let's run over the list one more time here and then we'll call it a day. The very first one on the list is to examine yourselves. Right? What does it say? What does it say in the Bible? It says, examine yourselves and see if you're of the faith. In other words, to see if Christ is in you. So I'm talking, again, you guys, spiritual confirmation is also part of examining yourself at the end of the day. If you don't feel that spiritual confirmation that you're doing the right thing, then you could do all the examining of yourself in the whole world, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be useful. So you need to see, right? You need to see if it's spiritually correct for you and physically. But examining yourselves, super important. Number one is to examine yourselves. Okay, number two is think for ideas. Think for ideas. So again, make a list of the best ideas. Think for good ideas. So once you know what your talents are, your inclinations, then you can start to think about what that would look like if it was your life purpose. And then number three is to pay attention. Pay attention. So, yeah, if it's not right for you, you're probably going to feel it over time. You're going to feel like you're not being true to yourself. You're going to feel like it's draining rather than fulfilling. So yeah, you want to find that thing that's fulfilling, that brings vibrancy, youthfulness, rejuvenation, joy, all those things into your life when you do it. So that's really where this paying attention comes in. Because if that thing that you're doing does the opposite of this, where you're not feeling that vibrancy, that joy, it's not right for you. There's a reason that you're feeling those things, right? It's probably because you're not being true to yourself. A lot of times people will go to the doctor and be like, hey, doctor, how come I can't focus at work? Or why am I sad at work? And then the doctor puts them on a pill and says, here, this will help you focus. Or here, this will help you with your depression. Then that person keeps working a job that they hate for 20, 30 years. And the pill really only makes their life worse because they wonder why they still feel the way that they do. They start to wonder if something is deeply wrong with them because the doctor told them this pill is going to fix them and it's not fixing them. That's what happens when people are not true to themselves. They end up in bad situations. It's unbelievably how important this is to be true to yourself, to pay attention to what's bringing joy, vibrancy into your life, because that is your purpose. And if you don't follow that, you're going to live a pretty sad life. And unfortunately, a lot of people do. They choose to ignore those deep feelings inside of them because they're scared of quitting their job. They're scared of what people might think of them if they change, or they just out of ignorance don't know the things I'm teaching you today. Okay, so pay attention. Super, super key. So, examine yourselves. What are your natural talents, your gifts, your inclinations? Make note of those things. Number 2, think for ideas. Use your mind a little bit. Think. A lot of people don't think. Start thinking for ideas. Write down 10, 20, 5, 100, whatever amount of ideas. And yeah, pay attention to that. Focus on, not pay attention, and make a list of ideas, and then yeah, take category, not inventory, not category. Take a list of ideas and then determine your top 3. My bad. So yeah, think 4 ideas and then determine your top 3 ideas. What really resonates with you? Like what really clicks? Because those things are important to you for a reason. They came to you for a reason. So yeah, think for ideas. You could probably think of 20 ideas, 30 ideas, 10 ideas, whatever. Just think of some, and hopefully those are ideas that are based on, after examining yourself, you've said, okay, these ideas probably work really well for me. You know, those ideas probably fit who I am. So yeah, once you've got that list of ideas, then you want to determine your top 3, make a plan, and of course pay attention as you try to apply those plans, as you seek to pick one and go all in on it. Then you're going to pay attention to see if it's really right for you. So yeah, again, one more time, examine yourselves. Under that, there's have a clear mind, take inventory of talents, and think back to your past. Number 2, think for ideas. In other words, make a list of ideas, determine top 3 ideas, make a clear map for your top 3 ideas. What would it look like? What are your values? They could be a 1-page Google Doc for your top 3. This is all stuff that can be done in just a few days. If you have a clear mind, if you've prepared yourself with a clear mind, then you can do this stuff in a pretty short amount of time. And you can really determine what you're supposed to do with the rest of your time, which, by the way, is your most valuable resource. So don't waste it. So yeah, think for ideas. Make a list of ideas, determine your top 3, make a clear map of those top 3, pick what resonates with you, focus on one of them. Unless you're transitioning away from a different job where you need to kind of transition over time, where it might look like this, where you're working this job, but you want to stop, and then this is your dream and you want to have that take over. So your dream becomes your job, right? So for your dream to become your job, you might have to keep working your job over time until it can become less of an important thing and your dream can become more of an important thing. So you might have to focus on 2 things at once for a little while, but don't try to do more than one thing really at least at the start, so you can build that habit of focus, of poise, of going all in on something. So you kind of become like it's your child, you're actually creating something, you're giving birth to something bigger than you. And if you have 3 kids running around, imagine a newborn baby. One of them is already an armful. It screams, it stays up. Like babies, I love babies, but they're a lot of work, right? To have a kid around, and I don't have any kids of my own, but I have family that have kids, nieces, nephews. To have a kid around is a lot of work, right? Imagine having 3 baby children. That's like trying to go for 3 life purposes at once. So as you give birth to this thing, which is your life purpose, your dream, your goal, your reason for being here, you know, as far as under the category of livelihood, because we're not talking spiritual reasons so much in this specific example. But yeah, then you probably only want to be able to focus all of your attention and energy on one. Once you've gotten better, a little bit better at being able to manage that one, then maybe once that kid grows up a little bit, you can have another kid, you know? But you don't want to be too divided against yourself. You want to be focused, central point of focus as best you can. So yeah, focus on one and save your other ideas. And then again, under pay attention, we have observe your feelings, see how you're feeling about that thing, test it in action. Am I able to make a small version of it? Am I able to make the smallest version of my dream, the smallest product, the smallest test example of my dream? Like if you want to create a drink company where you sell drinks like Gatorade, maybe your first test example is, how much money do I need to make my first batch of drinks? Okay, maybe you need $100 to make 20 gallons of your Gatorade drink. And I'm using Gatorade as an example, right? But just like, let's say you want to create a sports drink. If you want to create a sports drink, then in order to do that, you might have to test to see if people like your drink or not. So get $100 together and make a batch of your sports drink with your special electrolyte formula or whatever. And see if people like it, see if people buy it. What is the smallest testable version of your product, of your dream? Do that thing, see if people resonate with it, and then you'll know whether to keep doing it. But if you create that thing and, you know, there's nobody cares about it, then maybe try again, see if you did something wrong, try again. But if there's absolutely no sign that it's working for you, then pay attention to that, because it might be a sign that it's not right for you. It's not always the case, right? Edison built how many light bulbs before he built the successful one? But he already knew it was going to work in his mind. He saw the picture of it. So that's a little bit different, because when you have a picture in your mind of something that can be created and you already know it's possible, you just don't know exactly how to do it, that's a little bit different. But if you're just trying to figure out something to do with your life and you try this thing and everybody's like, well, you really suck at making sports drinks, you either got to start making better sports drinks and market your product better and make something that's more useful to people, more helpful, or you got to stop, because clearly when you tested the idea and paid attention to that test, it's not working. So pay attention. Okay, and flow states, you're going to get into flow state. Like right now, I haven't been in a flow state the entire video. Yesterday, I was almost for the whole video, but today I've tapped into a flow state a few different times. So I know that this video was something that was fruitful for me to do with my time, even if nobody else, even if not a single person watches this video. It was useful for me to do with my time because I got into that flow state, and that flow state really brings vibrancy into my life. So flow states bring vibrancy into your life, even if you're not making a bunch of money while you do it. And the more you tap into that flow state, the more money you will end up making over time, because a lot of really successful people understand those flow states. So flow states are a sign, and spiritual confirmation is a sign. You need to pay attention to those things, focus on those things. And this is the secret sauce, you guys. Examine yourself, think for ideas, and pay attention. If you do those three things, if you follow the instructions in today's video, you absolutely will be able to determine that thing for you. And you will be able to make a plan on how to make it a reality in your life. And once you start to execute that plan, if it's right for you, you're going to start to feel vibrancy, that joy, that rejuvenation, that youthfulness that I'm talking about. And you're going to feel alive. So pay attention to the way you're feeling once you've followed all of these instructions, and you're going to be able to determine what's right for you. And I do believe that everybody has a reason for coming down to earth, like a purpose, something that they're supposed to do. It could be simple, could be bigger, and just how big it is doesn't mean that it's more important than another thing, you know? Like, nobody really even cared about the guy that translated the Bible into English. They only cared enough about him to kill him for doing it. It wasn't like something that he became famous for, you know? The person that translated the Bible was killed for doing it. When he translated the Bible into English, they killed him. He wasn't popular. So your purpose in life might not be becoming the most famous, most popular, most influential person on earth. You know, it could just be doing that one thing that's so vitally important for the rest of humanity that somebody's got to do it, you know? Like, I'm so thankful for the guy that translated the Bible. I'm thankful for him. Even though he wasn't famous in his life, even though it wasn't some grand thing in the eyes of the world, especially at that time, he did something that was so vitally important for the rest of humanity that was his life purpose. So I'm not saying you have to become the next Elon Musk or whatever, but I am saying, hey, you guys, what is your life purpose? What is that thing that resonates with you spiritually? Figure that thing out and go for it, because that's how you're going to feel the most fulfilled, and that's how you're going to really be spiritually sound in this life, is going for that thing which has a spiritual confirmation. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's video about how to find your purpose the best way. Hope it was helpful, valuable to you guys. Definitely apply these different things. These are all things that I myself have done. And I do too. I have three main things. I have three things where, okay, these are the three different life purposes I could choose. I'm going for one of them because I feel that is right for me. I feel that spiritual confirmation. But I did the same thing. I mapped out the three top ideas. So I actually not all of this formula, but a lot of this formula I actually created in the process of me discovering what's right for myself. So I know it can do the same for you guys. I love you. I appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you in future videos. And as always, peace be unto you.